ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Wrestling Talks and Thoughts. I am your host, Saheem the Dream, always Swayze, never lazy. If the sauce ain't dripping, then the girls ain't tripping. I would like you guys to meet my special guest today,
Andre Ajaho. Yes, I'm Andre, guys. How you guys doing? Andre from Black News Undisputed. As you see right here. So since we're talking wrestling, just got to put the WWE logo there. I'm a big time wrestling fan, and just thanks a lot for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, we thank you for coming on. So Andre Ajaho, please tell the ladies and gentlemen a little bit about what you do as far as Black News Undisputed. Let them get to know a little bit more about what you do.
Okay, all right. Well, at Black News Undisputed, we are a media company where we tell stories that are affecting the Black and Brown community. Black News Undisputed was birthed out of the tragedy of George Floyd. All right. And, Breonna, all these different people, so we're just here to make a difference, to let our voices be heard. Because we're in a pandemic, I'm not really out there, protesting just because of the pandemic. If there was no pandemic, I'd be right out there on the street. But we have platforms like this. So this is what I do. I do media. This is what I do. So I'm going to use this platform to try to make change. So that's really about it, man.
Excellent. We thank you, Andre, for having you on to our show. So guys, we like to welcome you guys for joining us. We thank you guys for joining us. If you're joining us on Facebook, you're joining us on YouTube, we thank you guys for joining us. Drop a comment below. Please engage us for a little bit of conversation to talk about some news and rumors, and also SmackDown and Raw. So first segment we're going to get into is news and rumors, real quick. All right, news and rumors. Okay, so first up, we have Kofi Kingston responds to people who don't consider The Rock a Black WWE champion. This is very interesting, okay? Let me just pull up the article real quick. I thought that was a very interesting article to really kind of touch on, especially considering the kind of conversations I've had or kind of things that I've thought about concerning The Rock and concerning this particular topic. So let me just read this article real quick, and Andre, we can definitely discuss this. Guys, if you guys are tuning in, we would definitely like to hear from you guys. We want to know what you guys think. I'm about to read the article, so if you just stopped in, I'm about to start. All right. First up on news and rumors, again, let me read this title. Kofi Kingston responds to people who don't consider The Rock a Black WWE champion. Former WWE champion Kofi Kingston was on a recent table talk where he talked about the fan reaction to him becoming WWE champion at WrestleMania 35. Kingston acknowledged how sentimental the moment was for everyone, but pointed out that a wrestler like The Rock should also count in the records of being a Black WWE champion. Kofi says, I agree with you, Devon. Kingston said, I think it's sometimes kind of silly that people try not to count The Rock in the category because regardless of what you like, regardless of what you look like, you are what you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's Black, whether he is half Black or Black is Black. So I definitely take a lot of pride and sentiment. Like you said, I think for a long time that people of color, especially African Americans, have been waiting for someone who looks exactly like them to hold that championship title. I mention it all the time on Twitter and social media. The moment that happened, I got so many different messages and people in tears. And there's a video actually of Shad and MVP crying. You know what I'm saying? We have another guest with us, Jeremiah.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Jeremiah? Thank you for joining us. We have another guest with us, Jeremiah. He's going to be joining us today with Wrestling Talks and Thoughts. So, Jeremiah, right now we are talking about we're going on some news and rumors. The first topic of news and rumors is Kofi Kingston is responding to people who don't consider The Rock a black WWE champion. So I just read the article. Would you like for me to read it again, Jeremiah, or you just want to respond to the title?
No, this is actually the first I had seen of this. I was actually looking over some stuff right before I came on, but I hadn't seen this yet. And what were Kofi Kingston's responses to this?
So Kofi Kingston,
I think it's crazy. I think it's silly. Like, of course, The Rock is a black WWE champion.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely is. Well, Kofi Kingston's response was the same thing. He just responded the same way he responded. Yeah. He said that he's pretty much he totally feels that actually what happened was, I believe in an interview there with Devon and whomever was talking to Kofi Kingston, they asked him about like his WWE title reign and how was it being the first, I guess, considered African-American champion. And then he was pretty much going into saying that, The Rock should be considered in that category as well, because he's the first black champion. And he was like, kind of pretty much just saying like the fact that he's not considered. So pretty much that's really what he was really kind of trying to say, like just letting people know like he should be considered. But I think the thing is that, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I think the thing is that the response was different versus Kofi and The Rock. Like the response of Kofi being champion versus The Rock being champion was two different types of responses. And I think that's where people kind of look at it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So, at the heart of the matter, like, I think the fact that Kofi is being so, just like you would know Kofi would be, man, he's just a stand-up guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he's put it off and saying, hey, look, no, we got to look towards the past and everything. We got to recognize, The Rock is a black WWE champion, but at the same time, we can't take away from Kofi Kingston. Like right after he won the title, that special that WWE Network did where he went back to Ghana and all that was incredible stuff. So I think that you have to give Kofi that. It felt like a special moment. It still felt like when Kofi won that another barrier had come down. So at the same time, while Kofi can give props to The Rock, I think we also have to understand it felt super exciting when Kofi pinned Daniel Bryan for that title.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Andre, you want to chime in?
Yeah. So I agree with the both of you. You have to also realize this: The Rock's father, was black. So you know what I'm saying? Yeah. When you look at The Rock's father, he was black, and he was right there with them with Ron Simmons and all of them. Now they do say that Ron Simmons was the first African American champion, whether you want to say it's WCW or not. You know what I'm saying? It was Ron Simmons. So when Kofi won the title, I wasn't really happy that he won because he's black. I was happy that Kofi won because he's Kofi Kingston. He's been in WWE for so many years, and it was finally his time to get a shot. Just like R-Truth. I think even R-Truth needs to be the WWE champion one day. It's like when Big E. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's my thought.
Yeah, R-Truth, you're right about that.
Yeah.
He deserves it.
Yeah, I can't consider like Ron Simmons to be because Ron Simmons, it was like for WCW, like WWE.
But that felt special then too. I don't know, man. I don't know how old you guys are. I'm like 42. I was watching WCW back in those days, and I really loved that moment too. That power slam. I think it was to Vader, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that felt like a special moment as well. I don't know.
Right.
I think WCW was incredible world title.
Right. We have a hello from Rife Thing. Hopefully I'm saying it right. Rife thing. Hello, how you doing, Rife? He says, he has a comment. He says, I heard a rumor that the new Nation of Domination stable was scrapped because of Titus O'Neil. Titus was uncomfortable with this and this time with Black Lives Matter. So we had this conversation before concerning the Nation of Domination possibly coming back. I personally feel like right now they shouldn't come back right now. I feel like they should move on to a new stable. I feel like that was then, this is now. I feel like they should do something different, in my opinion. You guys want to chime in before we move on?
Well, okay, so back in the day, the Nation of Domination was like one of the hottest things in wrestling. I remember when they first debuted, it was hot. Now, I do agree with Titus O'Neil. You know, right now we're in a terrible time in life, and Vince McMahon is not in his right, literally not in his right mind. Okay, so so what is he gonna do with Black African American wrestlers? Is he gonna let them actually do damage? You know, it's like right now I don't think it's good to mess with race in wrestling. And then you don't have any fans either, so you're not going to get the reaction that you could get. You know, now you have Bobby Lashley and MVP and Shelton Benjamin doing the Hurt. You know what they call it, the Hurt Group or something like that.
Yeah.
Hurt business.
I always want to say Hurt Locker too.
Yeah. So it's like so like Hurt Business is a cool name, you know, but it almost seems like they're going back in time when MVP and Bobby Lashley were in TNA, you know, in Impact. They were a group then too. So it's like they're referring back. They're not pushing any new stars. So, you know, I say all that to say is like the Nation of Domination now is not going to work, especially if Vince McMahon is in control. Maybe Triple H could do something with it, with his mind, but it's not a good idea. So I agree with Titus.
I mean, my okay, I'm gonna just say this. My thing with the whole Nation of Domination angle is, I feel like this, like I said before, and I said this before. I said, if they do a new Nation of Domination, they need to have them as a strong stable. They need to be legitimized. I feel like when they were the first time they were there, I felt like they were decent, but they only held the Intercontinental title. I think they had the European and Intercontinental with D'Lo. And that was it. But I feel like they need to be legitimized like DX, legitimized World like title. Corporation. You know what I'm saying? Like have them hold heavyweight gold, have them like you know, right, like, you know, but don't bring them back to just be a stable and they're together and they don't accomplish anything. Like it's pointless.
Yeah, jobbing and all that.
Right, jobbing and everything. So, you know, again, I feel like they should just do something different. Nation Domination, I feel like they should do something different. I feel like they need to not be so, what's the word? I feel like they need to be a group, not be so Black centered. Even though they are now, I'm all for all Black group. I'm definitely all for all Black group. Yeah. That's what I want to see. But don't make it so like, you know, Black centered. Like they're a group of guys who came together, you know, and if they are Black, that's cool. That's what we like. Yeah. And they're a group. That's it. Don't put that whole, I feel like, narrative in there because then it makes it too political, like unnecessarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. So if I might chime in as well, one thing we have to remember is we already have a really great Black group. It's called the New Day. And they're the type, they just happen to be Black people who are also amazing veteran wrestlers, power wrestlers, and you know, you've got Xavier with the Harvard educated, you know, whatnot. We already have a strong Black group. Now, I would like hold my judgment back if they decided to do a Nation of Domination thing. I agree with you guys that it's probably not the best time with the current climate in the world. I think you'd almost have to bring them in as a face stable, and you'd have to have what I mean by I would reserve judgment. Is if they came out with a story that meant something. You know what I'm saying? Like Ron Simmons came out and there was a good reason. And then like you see like the little pieces forming together. And if the story was right and it was done right, yes. But that definitely means that we can't have Vince McMahon involved in it because he should not be in charge of anything having to do with black people at all. At all. It would be completely tone deaf.
All right, so we have a question from James Presley. James Presley, thank you for joining us. He says, I have a question, but it's off that topic, so I'll wait. James, you can ask your question anytime. We will answer. We will respond to your question. Ask a question. Go ahead and shoot. All right, so we're going to jump to the next topic. Next topic we have for news and rumors. Bianca Belair crashes Zelina Vega's Twitch stream and attacks her. So apparently Bianca Belair blames Zelina Vega for poisoning her husband, Montez Ford. Aha. We have another guest, my co-host, Jay McMahon.
What's up?
What's going on?
How's it
Jay
going?
McMahon is in the building. Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen. So he came at the right time because we're talking about his girl, Bianca.
Yeah, that's right.
Shayna?
No, Bianca. We're talking about Bianca. We're talking about the other one, not Shayna. We're talking about the other one.
Oh, the EST. Okay.
All right. So Bianca Belair. So the news is, so what happened is Bianca Belair apparently attacks Zelina Vega during her Twitch stream and blames Zelina Vega for poisoning Montez Ford. Now, the reason why I brought this up, this is why I brought this up. I know it's like, okay, well, we could have seen this anywhere else. The reason why I brought this up is because that means a possible angle for her and that she could be seen more often on Raw. And he could possibly be working in a whole feud that will have her have more airtime, more wrestle time, potentially putting her out there.
Well, I knew that was for a fact. That was the reason to bring her back because they initially wanted to put her with the Street Profits initially. But when they went to the whole comic angle with the Street Profits and Viking Raiders, they didn't have nothing for her. So now, being that they revisiting the angle with the Street Profits and Garza and the other Andrade, since Zelina's there, it just makes sense to find a way of bringing her in. And that's the way of bringing her into the feud. So therefore, she has therefore it's two guys and a girl kind of. Then again, they might have a match at SummerSlam. We just don't know.
Yeah. So that's why I brought it up. I thought it would be an interesting thing to bring up because it seems like
Bianca's bigger than that. Just
Bianca is bigger than that. I was just happy at the fact that they actually have something out, like they're trying to push towards something. So that's why I brought it up. That's why I thought it was very interesting.
Bianca Belair is super talented, man. I hope they really give her something to get a good feud. I would love to see her have a feud with Zelina Vega because they're both talented on air. So, I think that in the ring, they would put on a solid match.
So does Zelina Vega, she wrestles, right?
Yes.
I think she needs a little bit more work. We don't get to see her that much, so we, I guess that's the reason.
Is she a flopper? She flops around like a fish out of water. You know how the women, the female wrestlers flopping around. She flops.
She played AJ in the movie,
Really?
She what?
She played AJ Lee in that in the AJ movie. Yeah, Fighting with My Family.
Oh,
really? Yeah.
Page movie, yeah.
AJ Lee. Oh, right. She did play AJ Lee. Right. Okay. Yeah, like they actually made that match way longer than it. No.
Yeah.
Shorter than it was. It was shorter, right?
Yeah. There were several things that were different. I actually watched the match directly after I watched the movie. It was like the costume was different. There were different things, but yeah. But I know that the reason that you say can Zelina wrestle, I know she can at least do a Hurricane Rana. She did so in the movie. I don't know how many takes it took.
I think the last match that I seen that she was in, I actually saw her do a reverse dragon sleeper, which is a move that Aleister Black used. So she is training with him apparently. So
okay.
Yeah, when she was in NXT, she would always help Andrade, especially with Johnny Gargano. She's done a lot of Hurricane Riders on Johnny Gargano, so she can go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
I got no doubt.
So we have a question from James Presley. He says, "What do y'all think about Monday Night Raw Underground with Shane, and what happened at the end of SmackDown on?"
Oh my god.
Where do we start?
Yeah.
Right. Where do we start?
So I'll give my opinion real quick. So
Okay.
Raw Underground, horrible. I don't like it. I don't know who in the world came up with the idea. I don't think I don't think that's something that's gonna grow on me. Somebody referred to it as what was it? Def Jam Vendetta.
Yeah. That was a good video game.
Right. And as far as the what's it called? What's it called? The retaliation or
Retribution.
yeah, Retribution. What kind? First of all, what kind of Disney Channel High School Musical faction are they trying to run? Because
That
man,
sounds like a failed WWE pay-per-view. That sounds like one of those pay-per-views they got rid of in the 90s. WWE Retribution.
exactly. Because I'm like, okay, they're beating up, the fans. I'm like, come on. Then I'm like, yeah, this is horrible. And then they're so small, like nobody's gonna take them. I thought they was ninjas at first. I'm not gonna front.
So yeah,
me too.
Actually, I actually have some pretty crazy. Like as far as Raw Underground goes, I don't really mind it that much. I'll wait and see what they end up doing with it. But Retribution, I have some strong feelings on actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's save that for a little bit later.
Okay.
In the
All
show
right.
because I feel like we definitely need to like dissect that because those guys came out and I was just like, all right, but yeah, let's get into that a little bit later.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, let's hold on. All right, so we have a little bit more news. MVP says he has signed a multi-year deal with WWE. He just finalized his deal with WWE. A few shows ago, we talked about how MVP was in the works of signing a multi-million-dollar deal or a multi-year deal, I think it was, with WWE. And now he finally, signed it. He was on Twitter drinking a glass of. I'm sorry. Let me get the whiskey out. It was a very expensive whiskey. It's called Yamazaki 18. It's very expensive whiskey. It's about like $1,000 a bottle. I would like to try.
That's what happens when you sign a WWE deal.
Yeah, man. I guess you get the big bucks, right? Make the big money. Multi-year deal. So I'm happy about that. Wanted to bring that up. I'm very excited and really want to know exactly what they do with him. I hope they use him more as a manager. I always wanted him to do more, but right now in his, he's like 46, I think. So he's close to that retirement age. So I think they're going to use him more as a manager. So that's the news there for MVP. You guys want to chime in or?
Let me just chime in. I just want to chime in real quick, and I'm gonna have to jump into another meeting. So sorry for leaving so abruptly. But MVP was really good back in the Attitude Era. Really cool. Had the braids, had the swag, all of that. He's getting older, but listen, I'm happy that they still see value in him. Now, people like Titus O'Neil, though, I feel like, okay, he's an ambassador. He's out there, kissing babies and doing all that stuff, doing good. He's a, father of the year. All of that is good. But Titus O'Neil is a beast. Titus O'Neil is built. He's tall. There's so much they could be doing with Titus O'Neil. Titus O'Neil could be in the Hurt business, being taken serious, in his character, taken serious in his character. Now we remember the Greatest Royal Rumble when he ran and he fell under the ring. After that, it kind of like he didn't really get any momentum after that, So it's like he needs something to elevate him to get to another level, before. Like stop using these old people. They're using all these old timers. When you watch Raw and you see the Big Show and the Big Show, come on, this is like 2020. Like elevate the new talent. That's my main point.
But you know what? A heel turn for Titus, and then follow that up with like a severe beat down on somebody, and just stop playing him falling at the Royal Rumble, and it would be forgotten about. You know, because you're right. Titus is huge. I mean, like when he came in as a heel back in the day, when he was coming up through like the original NXT and stuff. I mean, you're absolutely right. He does a lot for that company, so they should give him his day.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the things. Like I look at a guy like Titus O'Neil, look at his size, look at his build, look at the potential of how he could be booked. And again, he was booked as a jobber. You know what I'm saying? Which is sad because, you know, like again, it's like that's my issue with Aleister Black. That's my issue with, you know, who else is another person like Dolph Ziggler,
Cedric
like
Alexander.
Who's Cedric Alexander? Right.
Longest time. You know?
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like you have a lot of talent. You know what I'm saying? Like that could be booked properly and they have the potential. Now there's some I'll look at and I'll be like, and I say to myself, you know what? They need to revamp this character. They need a do-over. You know what I'm saying? Like this character need a do-over. I didn't see that same potential in Titus O'Neil as it was for what was the guy he was a tag team partner with? Darren Young. Like Darren Young, but I felt like the push that they were trying to give to Darren Young, they should have gave to Titus. That's how I felt. You know what I'm saying?
Right. With Bob Backlund.
Right.
Don't put Bob Backlund with Titus O'Neil, though. I was wondering if you were going to bring up Bob Backlund because I don't think that's that year.
Yeah, but it was a funny angle. I enjoyed it. It was funny. They brought back Bob Backlund. I thought it was cool, but it could have been. But it was, I think Darren Young Darren Young to me didn't have what I see with Titus O'Neil. Titus O'Neil looks like a big guy who could be pushed as a monster.
Yeah, if he had Heyman behind him, it would be over with.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but possibly. I mean, because I think Heyman, I think Brock Lesnar, I think like I could substitute Brock Lesnar with like Bobby Lashley. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
Right. You know, but Titus O'Neil, he could be pushed as a monster. He could be pushed. I see Titus O'Neil possibly being pushed like a Batista, maybe.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Because Titus O'Neil hasn't even had. I think he's been a tag champion, but he hasn't been like the U.S. Maybe he was the U.S. champion once. He hasn't been an Intercontinental champion at least.
No. He only
at least. He was a 24/7 champ. He was a 24/7 champ.
24/7 champ, tag champ, and so he got. That's it.
Yeah. They need to use him better, man. But listen, I have to go. But thank you for having me, and I hope to be back on and to talk wrestling, man.
Thank you, Andre, for joining us, man. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Peace.
Absolutely. Later. All right, Jeremiah, it's just me and you.
All right.
Let's rock and roll. What we have? All right, so we have more news and rumors. So Seth Rollins, this is very interesting. This was one of my favorite topics. Favorite news and rumors that I found online. Seth Rollins says today's fans lack patience for slow burn storytelling, which kind of I thought was very interesting. But let's get into what Seth Rollins says before we comment. While discussing his Monday Night Messiah persona on the Gorilla Position podcast, Seth Rollins noted that little planning has gone into the molding of the character, which has evolved on a weekly basis. This is what Seth Rollins says. Although I have been careful to craft the character, nothing has been perfectly planned out months in advance, Seth Rollins revealed. There has been no timetable on how things are going to go. Rollins then explains why slow burn storytelling is a lost art today, not just in wrestling, but across all entertainment platforms. Okay, Rollins, hang yourself again. All right, Rollins, this is what Rollins says. In the age of instant gratification, audiences don't have the patience for long-term storytelling. Rollins said, when you can binge watch your favorite series in 2 days, as opposed to months, it creates a different precedent for how we intake our entertainment. We are consuming our entertainment differently, and wrestling is not immune to this shift. Rollins stated, while adding that younger audiences are wired differently and might not appreciate the product from earlier decades, we have to adapt as well to keep up with our audience. I am in my 30s, so I grew up to the longer form of entertainment, but our younger audience isn't wired that way. Interesting. He says it is easy to see someone with a famous last name scoff at it. Rollins said right now he's only training and not wrestling matches. I'm sorry, he's speaking on Dominic.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. I'm sorry. And yet he's knocking it out of the park every step of the way. It says a lot about his work ethic and natural instinct for our industry. I am looking forward to seeing what the finished product will look like. Interesting. So Seth Rollins says that we're in an era of instant gratification, saying that the art of storytelling, the slow burn of storytelling, will not be appreciated now because and he compares the storytelling of how people want their instant gratification to Netflix app. How you can get all the episodes and everything, and you can watch it. You don't have to wait so long. But this is my thing. I totally disagree with him because you have other shows or other venues who do it differently. You have Ring of Honor, you have Impact, you even have NXT that has slow burn storylines. It's like I totally disagree. I totally disagree. And this is what I feel. I feel like part of him making that statement is to try. This is me being presumptuous, right? But I'm throwing this out there, right? I feel like the fact that he made that statement is him trying to cover up the fact of his lackluster Universal Championship run, where he got into this quick feud with Brock Lesnar, where he didn't fit, where Roman Reigns fit, where a Braun Strowman fit, where even people who were already in the mix during that year, how he just popped in, fought him, beat him very quickly, had the Universal title, and then it was just like, it's just like, okay, boom, like he gets the title. His reign wasn't as great as he thought it would be. His victory didn't give him that rocket push. And that's my thing. That's my take on Seth Rollins' comment. I feel like he's making it from that place of having a failed run with the Universal title. And I totally disagree with him.
Yeah. It's easy for Seth to say, to hop on that whole bandwagon of saying like young people these days with their instant gratification and our cell phones and all that. But I really think that one thing that Seth Rollins does a lot these days is he kind of waves the company flag a lot and, kisses the company ass a lot, really is what he's doing. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that it's not that people are fed up with or not able to wait for a slow burning story to be played out. It's that they're sick of waiting for a slow burning story to play out, for it to get dropped in the middle of it, and us not get the ending. Somebody gets injured, or somebody falls out of the good graces of Vince McMahon, and therefore all of our tuning in each week to see these slow burning stories play out, they never materialize into anything that's rewarding or satisfying, or we as the viewer feels like, hey, this was worth it to wait for that feel. So now you've created kind of a culture in which the wrestling fans are like, hurry up and get it over with. We know that this isn't going to amount to anything, or I'm not saying they always get it wrong, because amazingly enough, the slower burning stories that we have around Mandy and Otis right now, whether they've had their cringy moments and things like that, but they're slow burning, and they've actually had their high points too, where they're come on, it's entertaining at times, so they can do a slow burning story right. And if it's compelling, the audience will stay. If it's not, we're not going to be patient.
Absolutely. So Jay, just to catch you up where we're at right now. So we're talking about Seth Rollins. He says that today's fans lack the patience for a slow burning storyline. And he says that we're in the age of instant gratification where fans don't really appreciate long storytelling. And that they wouldn't really appreciate it. So this is what Seth is saying, just to kind of like, you know, summarize what he says. What do you think?
I agree with Jeremiah because end of the day, let's take the whole Shayna Baszler. Let's take her for example. How she ran through NXT, she came up to the main roster. You know how we know she made her debut biting the back of Becky's neck. Boom. So then you know she goes on, wins the Elimination Chamber. Dominates the Elimination Chamber. Goes on to WrestleMania, loses, and then you know goes to the Money in the Bank, loses, and then we don't see her for like 3-4 months. Now, let's just say that would have dragged on for like, let's say a couple more months, but it would have made her dominant, and she disappeared. Then we would have been like, okay, so because even within the 3 months that they made her dominant and then she disappeared, we look at it now like, okay, what was the point of you doing all that if she was going to disappear and now you not give her the belt? So imagine they would have dragged that even longer, and we really going to be like, all right, you guys. so yeah, I mean, and then on top of that, you know, we have who we want. You know, and unfortunately, we live in an era where the internet kind of ruins a lot of things. You know, so we kind of know what to expect, what's going to happen, and not only that, you know, with us wrestling fans, we can already, with us watching so long, we kind of can dictate what's going to happen before it happens. So it's harder now to try to surprise us or catch us off guard. You know, rather than late 90s, early 2000s. Right,
absolutely true. Totally agree with you guys. You know. It's definitely true. Like, you know, Shayna Baszler, you know, I definitely agree with both of you guys. You guys made excellent points. Same Shayna Baszler, you know, you do all this stuff for her, and then all of a sudden you take her off of TV, right? She loses the title. She doesn't win at WrestleMania. You take her off of TV just to now bring her back on TV. You know what I'm saying? And funny enough, as you know, as fate would have it, the woman who she lost to wound up becoming pregnant, and she had to lose the title anyway. Right. So you should have given it to her anyway. So it's crazy, right? And then and again, you know, Seth Rollins, him making that, and I totally agree with you, Jeremiah. Like he's like Seth Rollins haven't been getting a lot of heat. Like, and Seth Rollins is an indie darling. Like, you know, they've been talking about him since he was Tyler Black, and I remember them talking about him online since he was Tyler Black, and now like he's on a man, you know, he's at the top right now, and you would think that him being such an indie darling, he would have that understanding of, you know, really being in tune with the wrestler. I mean, with the audience and knowing what they want and knowing the better thing. But you know, he's definitely a company man, and that's because, you know, he's one of the golden boys, so he has to, you know, speak well of his employment, otherwise he won't have.
Right. Nothing that comes out of Seth Rollins' mouth is going to be talking about how WWE needs to step it up.
Yeah, right. And they definitely do need to step it up. And it is crazy because it's like, you know, he has been waving the company flag, and I totally disagree with. We all disagree with Seth, and we know how great storylines always work out for the best, especially when they have a great climax. You know what I'm saying?
Compelling.
Like, yeah, right. We're not watching it just to watch it. We want to see this climax. Like what we're watching, like what me and Jay been talking about on the last few shows, off and on, is Bayley and Sasha, because we want to see this climax. We want to see how is this, because it's just like Evolution. Like I wasn't really watching wrestling as much, but then I started watching Evolution. I started watching Raw, and then started seeing this group Evolution, seeing what Triple H was doing with these guys, you know, this like new age 4 horsemen. But then what really got me was when Randy Orton wins the title, and then that next Monday Night Raw, they jump Randy Orton, and I was like, that's Triple H. I was like, that's classic Triple H. I love it. I was like, yes, I love it. You know, and it gives me chills to this day thinking about that moment, because it was like, all right, now where are we going to go with this feud? You know what I'm saying, with him and Randy? Because obviously Randy's the chosen guy, but that feud didn't really go anywhere until years later because there was some backstage issues with Randy. But that's one of the storylines that fell between the cracks, because they had something great there that didn't really amount to anything, you know. But
there are so many situations like that throughout history that you could say, like, what if they would have seen it through? But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm glad you made that point because the Sasha and Bailey, that is a long dragging storyline.
Right. Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you guys get nervous sometimes when something's going really well with an angle? Like for instance, right now with Sasha and Bailey, like it's going well. They got the tag titles, they got the Raw title, they got the SmackDown title, and it's like it's hitting on all cylinders. Are you like waiting for them like to drop the ball one week and like, wait a minute, this is not cool what they're doing? I get nervous these days.
You know what's crazy, Jeremiah? I'm not getting nervous now. You know why? Because, but I used to though. I used to. But the spectator in me is always like, I'm looking at it like, you know what? They're gonna mess this up. They're gonna mess this up. But now I feel like what they're trying to do is they're trying to get it right now. I feel like they're trying to get it right. Yeah. Hopefully they do. I feel like they are, but I'm not as nervous. I'm not nervous yet. You know who I was nervous about? I was really nervous about Dolph Ziggler fighting Drew McIntyre because I was hoping he won. He didn't win. Well, Jay said it wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen. I knew it was going to happen, but
Well, as far as Dolph Ziggler, they already planned Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton last month, so we knew that they wasn't going to scrap that. But as far as being nervous about Sasha and Bailey, I don't think they're going to mess up because Sasha and Bailey are safe in Vince's eyes. With Becky out, with Charlotte out, Becky and Sasha are the only two that's just part of the women's evolution that's still there that he can rely on. So that's why he's like, you know what, because he doesn't, and for some reason he doesn't have faith in the Asukas, the Naomis, the other women that could actually hold down the company. He doesn't have faith in them, so he's going with what's safe. And right now for him, Sasha and Bailey is safe until Charlotte decides to come back and she'll win all 4 belts to herself by herself.
That makes a lot of sense.
You know what? I'm thinking about it right now. I only get nervous when I have hopes of a particular person winning a match, and I'm watching that pay-per-view, and I'm like, all right, it's gonna happen. I'm confident throughout the week, but when that match happens, I'm like, all right, they're gonna do it. And then it's like when it doesn't happen, I'm like, they didn't do it.
That's exactly what gets us hooked as wrestling fans.
Right.
Yeah.
Butterflies.
Word. All right, so guys, let's talk about so James Presley talked about WWE Raw Underground. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you guys, I didn't get to chime in at this point. I went to sleep. I gotta wake up in the morning. I gotta be to work at 5:00 in the morning. I went to sleep. Didn't see it. My wife's seen it. So how was this thing? So it's supposed to be like this UFC kind of situation.
It was just darkly lit, you know what I mean? Like underground, definitely had the Fight Club feel to it. They were throwing guys out there that you've really never seen before. You might have seen on NXT, or he might have been a jobber. But then every now and again, you get like a Viking Raider out in his street clothes. The matches were really quick. Dolph Ziggler was in there for a minute. It was all over the place. It was interesting.
Okay.
But some news about that. So, Renee Young.
Mm-hmm. Okay. She's going to be wrestling?
She wants to. She wants to have a Raw Underground match. I forgot what it said against who, but she definitely wants to have a Raw Underground match. CM Punk says he likes the idea. He thinks it's cool, and he thinks it's innovative. And Booker T chimed in and said that he think that if WWE is going to lure Punk back to the company, that might be the way of doing it.
I did hear something about that actually. You disagree, huh?
Punk ain't coming back.
Hey, if he's gonna go back to AEW, if he's gonna go to AEW for a boatload of money, Vince has that plus. So with ratings going down, Vince might just say, "Hey, save us."
Well, I think if they're going to do something like that, number one, you have to have, if you're going to make anything its own separate little thing, you have to make there be some stakes. So they're going to have to put some kind of belt on the line. I don't know if it's like the 24/7 belt, because if you do that, then it's dead in the water. But if you make some kind of unofficial title that you can win for being in these types of, 30-second shoot, work shoot matches that aren't really real, but they're supposed to be shoot matches, you have to have some kind of stakes involved.
Mm-hmm.
There were dancers too. Did you know that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was distracting. That was kind of weird. It's kind of, but anyway, all over the place. I think if you're gonna do it, you have to do it like for the whole hour, because that's originally what I thought was going to happen. That whole last hour,
right?
Raw Underground. And if you're going to do it, I think that you can make Raw feel like a much more easily digestible show at 2 hours, and then have it switch gears to Raw Underground for that third hour, and then you got 2 fresh shows. If you're really going to do something, if you're going to throw it against the wall and see if it works, really give it a shot. Let that third hour be Raw Underground. Make some kind of title, make some kind of stakes, give some kind of storyline to it, which it seems like they're trying to do, because at the end of the whole thing, they put Hurt Business got out there, right? So the Hurt Business came out at the very end of the whole thing,
right?
And kind of stood over it dominantly at the end of it, saying, we're taking over Raw Underground now. Tune in next week to see what we do. So, I mean, it seems like they're going to give it some kind of an angle. And I think if you're going to do that, let it be the full third hour and see if you can turn it into its thing. Because that's one of the biggest complaints about Raw right now, right? Is it's 3 hours long and it's hard to get through, right? It's so much easier to get through a SmackDown than a Raw.
And the storylines are horrible. Like they have so many pointless storylines that you're like, okay, why? What's the point of this? What's the point of that? If they would just focus on certain things and not have just be all over the place all the time. But from what I hear, it's the writers. The writers, they're trying, but they go to Vince and Vince rejects everything. So 9 out of 10, they'll go him with 9 ideas. He'll like 1 and reject the other 9. So so I guess in their defense, like it's hard to try to come up with an idea that's going to be good, or they think it's a good show, but then run it by Vince, and Vince is like, no, I hate it. Start over. So I think that's the main issue.
I seen it, initially when I seen the advertising for Raw Underground, immediately my mind said fail. Like, this is an epic fail. This is a waste of time. They can do something with it. But I agree with you, Jeremiah. Like, there has to be stakes. There has to be a storyline. It has to make sense. I think, but I'm gonna tell you why I feel like it's workable, but they have to be very creative at the stakes and the storylines that they come up with. It has to be creative enough to be interesting for us to watch it and have a reason to watch it. The reason why I said fail is because we have UFC. So we have the real thing, and now we have the fake thing. You know what I'm saying? We have the actual UFC, and then we have this, knockoff version of the UFC now being promoted by WWE. And now it's sort of like you're stepping on Dana White's toes now, Vince McMahon, which Vince McMahon doesn't have a problem doing because that's Vince McMahon, It has to be creative. If it's not creative enough to have great storylines, high enough stakes, something that piques our interest, why are we watching Raw Underground? Are we trying to get like a grittier version of Raw and SmackDown? Because in my opinion, the grittier version of Raw and SmackDown is NXT, which they do in wrestling. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what are you giving us? Like, what are you really giving us with Raw Underground? This is my thing. I feel like that this idea would have worked 12 years ago.
Brawl for All 2, right? It's all it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I mean, if they're gonna go with it, I can throw a couple of names out there who you have guys who would flourish if used correctly. Mm-hmm. Kyle O'Reilly, Aleister Black.
That's what I thought too. Right. I thought Aleister.
Yeah, Shayna Baszler would obviously thrive in that kind of atmosphere. I'm trying to see who else.
Nakamura.
Nakamura. Dexter Lumis to a certain extent.
Dexter Lumis, yeah.
Daniel Bryan, even some kicks.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Gulak. Gulak could work in that environment.
Gulak, yes.
The original bro.
Oh, Matt Riddle, yeah.
Riddle. I can see him there.
Yeah,
Cesaro action.
Cesaro. Yeah. Yeah, it can work. It can work.
Even to a certain extent, John Morrison.
Yeah.
So I want to see a Raw Underground Battle Royale is what I want to see. I just want to see.
There's no rules.
I want to see him back there just wailing. I want to see a Raw Underground Royal Rumble. Might as well go all in.
Right. Yeah, everybody just beating each other up. But I definitely I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to, as soon as we get off this live, I'm going to check it out. I got to check it out. I just want to see what it's like. But I want to know where they're going with this. So I'm open to the idea. But CM Punk, he is not coming. I think CM Punk would, if CM Punk does come back and he does do Raw Underground, he can finally get a UFC victory.
That's what Booker T was going at with it.
You don't think Vince would book him to lose, or Triple H or whoever's booking Raw Underground would book him to lose?
That would be hilarious. 4-3.
Out of spite, they'd be like, and you're gonna lose this match. Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you, as a fan, I don't want CM Punk on Underground. I want CM Punk in the ring. And I've said this before. CM Punk is the only guy I feel like that can come back and save wrestling where it's at. Like he's the only. I feel like he's the second coming of like Hogan. Like unless you had John Cena come back and turn heel.
But now the only problem with that is for you to bring Punk back, you would have to do that with fans because the fans would go crazy. You don't want to waste a comeback like that in the Performance Center.
There's a lot of things you gotta wait on for that, man.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So what else we got? So let's get into this Retribution real quick. We only got a few more minutes. So let's talk about let's talk about Retribution. So let's get into this. So these guys came in, and exactly what I was thinking in my mind was exactly what some of the guys on Facebook were posting inside the group. They were like, so somebody said exactly what I was thinking in my head, and it was like, these guys look soft.
Yes. That's
guys
so funny. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
That's my whole problem with them, man. As I said, my notes say this. They did not do it for me. They were not intimidating. I said when we heard them talking, they sounded like teenagers making noise. I wanted to drown them. As a father and now as a grandfather, I wanted to take them and be like, "You're grounded for 2 weeks." One of the, that little guy, the little guy that screamed into the camera.
Yeah.
I thought it was Leo Rush. I thought I was like, did Leo Rush get hired back?
Oh my god!
But what's funny?
What's that?
That would be a crazy angle, like all the mid. But I think, well, obviously not Rusev, but all the ones who haven't signed, like Leo Rush, Mike Kanellis. I didn't think about that. And Retribution could be them. Hey, you just never know. But
none of them are big enough to be Rusev. None of them are big enough to be Rusev.
Yeah, none of them.
I agreed with you though, Jermaine, that they also, for a minute there, I was like, too much of this. I was like, this is just like the Nexus 2. Yeah. We know how that all turned out. That didn't turn out well for anybody in the Nexus. Right. And I agree with you, Jermaine, that they look like Tozawa's ninjas.
Yeah.
I don't like their name. I think they sound like a WWE pay-per-view gone wrong.
Yeah.
Backlash, Retribution.
You know what I thought about this?
Retribution.
I thought to myself, if you guys had given this angle to Sanity before you let them go.
Yes, exactly.
Then they would have gotten over. They would have been the next Wyatt family.
Right.
Because they would have made it look menacing. They would have looked great. They would have.
And they had big guys, so
it was. I'm sorry, man. I just can't get behind it. Like,
right.
Yeah, and that's, again, like we talked about storyline, like people, wrestlers falling through the cracks, storylines falling. Like Sanity was another one. Sanity, the Wyatt family, like the Wyatt family was together, and they were great. It was like they had this great thing with the Wyatt family, and Bray Wyatt gets the WWE Championship when he's not with the family. It was just it was like, I mean, no, I'm sorry, he was with the family. No, was he? Because he.
Yeah.
No, he was right, because he had Randy with him, right? But it should have been at a time where he didn't need Randy. It should have just been Bray,
and the family,
right, and the rest of the guys, right? Exactly. Yeah. So, Sanity, that angle, this angle with Retribution would have definitely worked great with Sanity. I had high hopes for Sanity, and then when they didn't use Sanity properly, I'm just like, what happened? It was like these guys fought like 2 matches on SmackDown. Daniel Bryan was seen jobbing here and there, and then they just disappeared. And then Daniel's fired, and the rest of the guys just like disappeared. And it was just it's horrible, because it's like Sanity already had it. Like they already had it. And that's the thing, is like NXT push out these great talents, and these great talents that come from other places, they come and they have it. And then, but yeah, man, Retribution, I seen these guys come out, and I was like, again, these guys look soft. I was like, I don't believe them. The women who were masked, who were masked up, I was like, it was just horrible. It's like this, they go behind the stands to go attack the fans, or the developmental talent. One of them get kicked in the stomach, and she kicks in the stomach. She's looking at it like, yeah, like she, DDT'd on the concrete, but it's just a kick in the gut. And I'm like, really? It just wasn't believable. It definitely wasn't believable. Then they tried the whole NWO thing with the spray paint. I'm like, listen, NXT, believable. NWO, believable. DX, believable. These guys, not believable.
Now, here's the only thing that had me kind of nervous a little bit. When they went into the crowd, they were attacking everybody, and then the female talent, when they surrounded her, I'm like, oh my God, please don't hit her. Or I'm like, oh my God, we need 3 women, because it will be hard. It will be horrible, and it will go left if they find out it's all guys. But then I think the hood came off, and they saw her. I'm like, all right, I'm like, yeah, Vince, you kind of messed up here. But now the whole Retribution thing, I always said on the show that WWE needs a faction to dominate the show. Yeah. So my how I would have planned it was all the released talent before they signed the Impact. I would have gotten them and made them Retribution, because then you would have had a big guy with Luke Gallows, you would have had Carl Anderson, you would have had a mid-sized guy like Rusev, Leo Rush, who would have been a small guy, you would have had believable guys, and they'd be like, all right, you know what, you want to let us go? We're taking over, the whole company. And then they would have been recruiting from within, because AJ Styles would eventually be like, hey, that sounds like a cool idea. Let me, so that I think that would have been a better angle. But yeah, like these like little kids, like, I mean, if they're gonna go to Braun Strowman and he's gonna walk all over them by himself, no help. Right.
So I did hear some new. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I did hear some news, some possible news on some of the members, though. Okay. And I'd heard from Wrestling News, they had said that Vanessa Bourne is a possible person. Vanessa Bourne out of NXT. Okay. Also Chelsea Green out of NXT.
She did have okay.
There are other rumored names as well. Ricochet, Bo Dallas, Mustafa Ali, and Cedric Alexander are all rumored names. And then the Wrestling News was reporting that Dominik Dijakovic or Tommaso Ciampa still could potentially be the leader of the group. And they may even be using bodies in these suits that are not going to be in the group. In other words, they may, because of like COVID and all that, they may be using different bodies and people under these masks as who they actually intend on being in the group. But I've heard rumors as well that those names that I just mentioned are all just up in the air, because Vince he's not even sure about who he wants to be a part of Retribution yet. Which goes back to what you were saying about them not doing you say we don't like long-term stories. Well, you don't even have your stories written out before you present them to us. You don't even know the ending,
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and we spoke about that, like how I read backstage that Vince, a lot of times at pay-per-views, do things on the fly. Like he will set something, he'll set a decision, say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it this way, and then the day of the pay-per-view on the fly, you know, he just says, "All right, you're gonna give up the title," and he'd be like, "What? Like I thought we had, you know." And but this is funny because as we were talking about Retribution, I said it would be so hilarious. We see these 5'5", 5'5", you know, 5'5", 5'6" guys running around spray painting stuff. And then when they finally introduce, you know, Retribution, you have this guy who's like 6'5", taking off his mask. He's like, wait, I didn't see you there. Like, who are you? Like, how did you grow big? How did you get so tall? Like, that's funny. That's funny because when you read that out, I was like, that's interesting. It's so funny that Vince McMahon would turn around and swap it with some big, huge guy. But whoever he puts in the group, they need to make I could put together a great Retribution. That'll be dope, and I think it would work. But he has to have people there that make sense, and you need a muscle guy. You said what?
I said it has to be believable because you don't you don't want to have a 3MB part 3.0. You know, you got a bunch of guys who they're like, okay, well, who are you gonna beat up? You know, so it has to, you know, and it's funny because I guess Dominic Dijakovic is kind of being scratched. I mean, written off of NXT because we saw what happened with him and Karrion Kross, and Ciampa hasn't done anything since his Karrion Kross match. So I mean, those are two names that Jeremiah. That's very, very interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
They also mentioned that they deleted their tweets recently too. So they made history. So.
If Ciampa is there and Ciampa has been built, Ciampa is an NXT jewel, and we talk about this all the time. If you're gonna put Ciampa up there, and this is one of the reasons why I believe Ciampa and all these other Finn and everybody else, these guys are like, we're not trying to go back to the main roster because Finn left. Finn went back to NXT. But if Ciampa is going to be used, Ciampa must be used right. Ciampa has been built properly. Ciampa has been, you know, Ciampa and his feud with Gargano and all the stuff that he's done, just his character alone has been built properly. He has to be used right.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to, and that's the scary thing about it is it's like the people that come from NXT with such momentum, like your Ciampas and your Aleister Blacks, the list goes on and on. We could keep on naming people out of NXT. Is you get so scared because it's those people that sometimes Bobby Roode is another one that comes to mind. Right. Is those people that you take for granted, like these guys are going to be like huge. A lot of times they just don't get traction on the main roster while you have people like Heavy Machinery where you see them in NXT and you're like, these guys don't belong here at all. But then they go to the main roster and then they make a case for themselves. You know what I mean? Like Elias. You know, like
very good point.
Here's the thing, and this is crazy, and I'm glad you brought that up. This is the thing. I feel like it's an ego thing with Vince McMahon. It's an ego thing because when you look at NXT, right, you see all the developmental talent that goes there, right, and how well it's being ran. So all these big guys that Triple H is building, they build they build this underground, WWE fan base. They go to the main roster. We think they're going to be big. They're not big, right? But then you have like you mentioned, Heavy Machinery, right? You're like, these guys don't even belong here. They get to the main roster now. Otis has a daggone Money in the Bank briefcase, right? My theory is it's because Vince McMahon is saying, I didn't do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because in NXT, Heavy Machinery was just, they were jobbers. They go to the main roster. Now Vince McMahon can put his touch on it. It's not Triple H's touch. It's not William Regal's touch. No, it's Vince McMahon's creation. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's an ego thing with Vince. Sometimes Vince understands it with some of the wrestlers, like he understood it with Finn, but then he didn't really push Finn. He understood it with Seth, AJ, with Kevin, right? AJ, but you know what I'm saying? Drew McIntyre, he always did or didn't. I don't know. He called him chosen one, then he left, and he finally chose him again. But whatever, right? He's chosen now. But I think it's a thing where Vince is like, I have to put my touch on it. If my touch is not on it, and if it's not my creation, then they're not going to be handled like it's mine. So they're going to be treated as a jobber. And I think that's what I think about when it comes to those type of wrestlers when you do those things.
I totally agree with you. I feel bad for those wrestlers.
Yeah.
I mean, but see, the only thing with Heavy Machinery, Jeremiah, is I know they said backstage Vince loves Otis. So I think that's the only reason that they're getting the push, because he feels Otis is funny and he could connect with the crowd. But for him to win the Money in the Bank briefcase, a little bit much. And like you said, you got guys like Aleister Black. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. When Ricochet won the United States Championship, I was like, okay, finally they're going to start pushing him and moving him forward. Right. For him to lose AJ Styles the following week and then never get it again.
Right. Right.
That retribution.
Yeah, it would make sense because it reminded me of what was that cartoon? Was it South Park when he's like, "Yep," and it's gone. So yeah, but I mean, it's hopefully, and like I said, I know they say that Undisputed Era they were offered. They were asked if they want to go to the main roster, and they apparently, I guess they declined because I need to watch NXT before that. But and then not to go topic. I don't know if you guys talked about it yet, but apparently the angle with Adam Cole and Pat McAfee, I thought it was I thought it was real. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Just to find out that it was a work for them to have a match, and I'm like, seriously.
Proud of him for pulling something like that off.
Yeah, right.
So Adam Cole. So you mean the whole situation where he was cursing out the guy? I thought we talked about. I thought it was a work. I thought it was a work. I was like,
the only thing that had me thinking that it was real was because of the fact that Pat McAfee isn't a wrestler. He has no affiliation. So I'm like, okay, cool. So it was just kind of he's being disrespectful. But then I guess the way he was talking, most hosts, they don't really come at their guests like that. So I was just like, looking back on him, like he was kind of like poking at him and kind of tugging at him, but.
I mean, he just mentioned that he was a smaller guy, and he was like, "Oh, so you're gonna pull a small card?" And he just like bugged out. I'm like, "Why are you bugging, bro?"
The whole interview he was saying, Adam Cole got what he was because Undisputed Era. He helped. He hid behind his crew, to get what he got. And so Adam Cole had to tell him, "Well, you're a kicker. You're in the Patriots." So I mean,
that pump kick was serious though. That pump kick was good.
Oh wow! I mean, hey man, well it worked. I thought that was excellent. I thought it was a great idea though, because the simple fact that it brings more traction to him, it brings more heat to him, to Adam Cole. Now people want to know who's Adam Cole that almost got into a fight with this football player.
It's more mainstream attention to NXT. People will put their eyes on the product.
Right. Good. Absolutely. It was like, like the same, like when Bobby Lashley did that whole thing with I think it was like a waiter or somebody, or like I think they were at a restaurant and he was like, "You got a problem?" And he, grabbed the guy up. Like it was a work. Like I was like, this ain't real. Bobby and MVP wouldn't do that in real life. I was like, this is a work. But it was cool because it's something to, throw out to the mainstream media. People look at it, have people looking at the brand. I thought it was great though. It's a great idea though. That was definitely an excellent idea to get people looking at it a little bit more. Jay, you got any news and rumors?
I don't know what you guys talked about. So if I run across something you guys talked about, please let me know.
Okay.
So Daniel Bryan, he went on Twitter and said that obviously we know The Rock is in Moana, and Daniel Bryan's daughter Birdie sings the "You're Welcome" song a lot. So Daniel Bryan offered to have a match with The Rock because of the fact that his daughter sings the song all the time, and Rock accepted. So
he accepted the match with Daniel.
Yeah. So
The Rock accepted a match with Daniel Bryan.
Yes. So we don't know if he was just talking or it's going to be an actual match, but The Rock did say he's okay with it and he's open for the match. So we'll see if that goes any further.
I'd watch. I mean,
definitely.
Who goes over?
Right.
Vince is a rock to a darling to Rock. So I think he would have Rock win that match.
Yeah, I actually have the post right here on WWE, but you sent the image to me, Jay. But we can't see it because it's a little too small. But
let me see if I can try to pull it up.
The post. It says that Birdie just set up a dream match between her father, Daniel Bryan, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson. The Rock and Daniel Bryan showed on social media back and forth. So they were going back and forth on social media, I see, as you were saying, Jay.
Yeah. Let me see if I can try to find the post itself.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
I have a comment from Escobar Ellis. Esco, thank you, Esco, for joining us. He says, no, Rock, no. So he wants Daniel to go over in their showdown.
Oh, yesterday was Shayna Baszler's birthday. Cool. Interesting.
Awesome. Dope.
Where is this? All right, so we'll move on because I can't find the article.
Okay. All right. So let's go on to so we're just going to take a few minutes real quick because we're past our hour mark. We're supposed to be done. We got actually a few minutes over. All right. So we'll just briefly go over Raw. Not too much into the matches, but just you guys give me your highs and low points about Raw. What do you think about Raw overall? And then we're going to talk about SmackDown highs and lows, matches that you possibly want to talk about or storylines you possibly want to talk about. So with Raw, we have a comment from Anthony Cobb. Thank you, Anthony Cobb, for joining us. That's not the match I want Rock to have.
Nobody does.
Cobb says Daniel Bryan versus The Rock is not the match he wants The Rock to have. So Anthony Cobb, tell us, what match do you want The Rock to have? You can respond to us. Let us know, Anthony Cobb. Let us know. Going on to Raw. I thought Raw was pretty good. I only watched half the match. When I started to see, what was it that I didn't like about Raw? Something I didn't like.
The fact that Seth Rollins is fighting Dominic at SummerSlam. That's what you didn't like.
Exactly. Wait, hold on. We spoke about Raw, right?
Oh, I don't know.
That's a good enough point. I'm gonna leave it there.
We probably did talk about Raw because we did do it on Tuesday. Yeah, we did talk about Raw. Yeah, we did talk about Raw.
We talked about Raw on Tuesday. All right, so let's go to SmackDown because it's been a long week.
So
I'm sorry, Jeremiah. You guys have.
Oh yeah, no, nothing about Raw or anything. I mean, Raw, Raw was basically dominated by the underground thing and all that, and so we kind of already gave our opinion on that. But I was kind of, I actually didn't take notes on Raw this week, but I took a lot of notes on SmackDown. And as far as SmackDown goes, it was kind of a mixed bag for me this week. It was setting up for SummerSlam. Like everything that happened on SmackDown this week kind of centered on getting us set up for SmackDown. Overall, I thought it was kind of a mixed bag. I like the Fiend stuff, all the stuff that involved the Fiend. And believe it or not, I enjoyed most of the Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, Ms. Morrison, Heavy Machinery stuff. I thought that was actually pretty funny.
Sakama Mandy.
That?
Sakama Mandy.
Yeah, exactly. I did think the show was a bit Sheamus heavy and Baron Corbin heavy. Like I just don't love watching them wrestle. They're just
right. I understand like, you would rather watch paint dry. Yeah. I would rather watch paint dry. I got it.
Yes. And as we said before, when a show ends flat, it's hard to look back on it as being a success. And to me, that last 10 minutes of looking at this Retribution stable and saying to myself, like, I'm not threatened by you. How could any of these people that are supposed to be actual, like, professional wrestlers, why would they be threatened by you? So that,
Yeah, absolutely. No, totally agree. Real quick, Jay, before you respond, Anthony Cobb says he would want to see The Rock versus Triple H. This is very interesting. I like where you're going, Anthony. He says they were building towards that a couple of years ago. Slow burn. And then poof, it just disappeared. I stopped watching WWE when they gave Otis the briefcase. Man, that you know what, Anthony. I agree with you, and guys, I already know like this is how you can tell like we're hardcore fans, because no matter how much BS they keep shoveling, we keep trying to watch it just to see where it goes. Like we know this is crazy, we know this is horrible. Why did you do this? What are you doing? This is crazy, but we still watch it just to see where it goes. And my reason for still watching it, even though they gave Otis the briefcase, was because years ago, I had missed this long gap in wrestling. I think it was after Hulk Hogan got the belt back, after Ultimate Warrior lost it, and then from those years all the way up until like '96 or 90. I think it was '96. I started. I didn't watch wrestling. So when I watched wrestling off and on. So when Bret and Shawn was going through their thing, when Diesel had his reign and Yokozuna was the man and stuff like that, I wasn't kind of watching wrestling that much. And when I went back into the history and see how the storylines developed, I was like, you know what? I want to stay abreast on these storylines and kind of see how they develop and see who's like the new guy, who comes up. But Otis winning that briefcase is enough to make any hardcore fan watch wrestling, because you're like, what are they going to do? I'm sorry, real quick. What are they going to do with the storylines? Anthony Cobb says, and I don't like what they're doing to guys like Cesaro, Aleister Black, and Nakamura.
Or what they're not doing.
Right. What they're not doing. Exactly. Totally agree with you, bro. Totally agree with you. Jay, SmackDown, what was your...
Like Jeremiah said, I like. Now it was kind of interesting because last week we saw the show end with the Fiend putting Alexa in the mandible claw, and I'm shocked they didn't really revisit the whole Nikki Cross and Alexa this week, which was weird. But the fact that he tried it again and Alexa just stopped him and rubbed his head. So I'm trying to figure out where they're gonna go with that. Is she gonna be Sister Abigail Bliss, or so that's kind of interesting for me. Yeah, and the whole the King Corbin and Sheamus. We saw Sheamus less when he had an important storyline with Jeff Hardy, but then it's sad that Shorty G interrupted the match and got just beat down. So, but other than that, Heavy Machinery. I'm not a huge fan of Heavy Machinery, but the whole Miz Morrison when they had an interview with Mandy's hair, it was I found it kind of funny. And then, then Sonya Deville comes out, and respect that was okay until the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I totally think I totally agree. I totally agree with both you guys. Definitely agree with you, Jeremiah, on the point of Sheamus and Baron Corbin having that match. It was horrible. He's the worst. Anthony Cobb, he says, like Cesaro had so much hype behind him, then Tyson Kidd went down with the Cesaro section and the match. He was having great matches on Raw. Anthony Cobb says, I definitely love the Fiend and Alexa Bliss Braun Strowman storyline, though. And he also says, but it has to end with Bray winning the title. Yeah. Let me say this. That whole Alexa Bliss and Bray angle, I hope it really works. I hope they do something with Alexa Bliss kind of going with Bray. But let me point this out. That whole mandible claw, segment kind of reminded me of like a trailer for a Brazzers.
Yeah, it was borderline uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, right.
But
I'm like, we about to watch porn.
Right.
Hey, do you know what I think that this would be? I think that Alexa Bliss getting involved with the Fiend like this would be the perfect catalyst for a huge face turn for Bray. If kind of similarly to Elizabeth and Randy Savage in the 80s and 90s, or 80s and 90s, you've got what cures the demon, what heals the beast? Love, right? So like if Alexa Bliss actually she rubbed his face, right? Like there could be some kind of something to that, If Alexa gets with the Fiend falls in love with Alexa, and somehow he wins the title back, and this is a catalyst for a face turn for him. Because I've heard down the way that WWE has huge babyface plans for Fiend eventually. So, just like the Undertaker before him, you don't think he's going to be a babyface, but he ends up being one of the best babyfaces of all time.
Okay, so this is my challenge. I have a challenge though. I feel challenged about the Fiend being considered a face or heel. I think he should be very ambiguous, like Austin was.
Right.
Like he just does, or more like the Shield, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just do what needs to be done for that moment. You know what I mean? Like whether you're a good guy or bad guy, if you're just in opposition, you're opposition. That's it. And I don't think they should make him so much of a good guy, right? Like just play, just kind of like teeter on that line, play that gray area.
It's the anti-hero role.
Yeah. Right, anti-hero role, right. And play that gray area, because if he does, it won't take away his edge, because he's the Fiend. I don't think we want to see I don't want to see him soft.
Yeah, no.
I want to see a soft side. Like I want to see a soft side, like the whole thing with Alexa Bliss. Totally agree with that. Like I like that. I would definitely like to see that, but not so much in a sense that like now, like I would like to, I put it to you. Let me kind of.
You basically don't want to see him vulnerable, basically. Like
right, not vulnerable. Right. I don't want to see him too vulnerable. But listen, it's more like having the Fiend. Let's say Fiend is fighting Braun, right, and he's like beating the crap out of Braun, right, and he has Braun like savagely, thrashed throughout the whole ring, right? Mm-hmm. And when it seems like he can almost kill him, Alexa Bliss comes out and kind of like calms him down. That kind of situation, you know what I mean? So like when he goes a little too far, Alexa Bliss kind of brings him back in. Like I would like to see that, but him still be the Fiend and pop up when he needs to be the Fiend.
Or vice versa, we don't want to see him beating the crap out of Braun, and then Alexa Bliss is getting beat up backstage by Bailey, and the Fiend disappears.
And then
just counted out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, every monster, Freddy Krueger has his, every monster has their kryptonite. You know what I mean? And I guess that's kind of the same thing, is eventually they'll probably find the Fiend's soft spot or his weakness. And you're just saying you don't ever want to see that.
Right, you don't want to see that. But hold on a second, Jeremiah. The Fiend already has his kryptonite. It's the spears from Goldberg. Don't you? From Goldberg. That's it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's every tough guy's kryptonite is multiple finishes.
Yeah, that's right. The Fiend just needs to buddy up with Matt Riddle, and Matt Riddle will take care of Goldberg for him.
Right. Give him a little bro smacking, right? Yeah. That'll work. That'll work. All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap it up for today. Jeremiah, thank you for joining us, being our special guest. We also like to send a special shout out to Andre Ajoha, who joined us earlier today. And we would like to tell you guys to comment in the comment section below. Don't be afraid to comment in the comment section below. We want to know what you guys think about Raw, what you guys think about SmackDown. What are your take on the news and rumors that we spoke about concerning Retribution, Kofi Kingston's response to people considering The Rock as champion, Bianca Belair MVP signing, Seth Rollins' opinion on the lack of patience for storytelling and slow burn, and Raw Underground. So guys, thank you for joining us for another edition of Wrestling Talks and Thoughts. I am your host, Saheem the Dream.
I'm Jeremiah. Thank you for having me.
And it's your boy J Mac Main. Before I sign off, we talked about the app that Alexa Bliss, the guy paid $400 for a cameo.
Right. Okay.
It's an actual app called Cameo, and you can have celebrities talk to you. Even Charlotte Flair is offering $400 for a cameo. So, hey,
tell Esco that Charlotte Flair is offering $400.
That's all he knows. I told him.
Tell Esco don't spend all his money in one place. All right, guys. We will see you next time for another edition of Wrestling Talks and Thoughts. Peace.
Yeah.